Can I lease a car knowing that the company deals with interest? Now this is how the question was phrased to me. I think that the brother meant something else. Because leasing a car, because the company has interest, no scholar would say that it is haram, that you deal.
وما أرسلنا من قبلك إلا رجالا نوحي إليهم فاسألوا أهل الذكر إن كنتم لا تعلمون.
No scholar would say that it is haram, that you deal with the company that is doing interest, because if you did that, then everything you buy at every shop would be haram. If the company is dealing with interest, every company in North America pretty much has interest in it. You cannot go to Kroger's or Walgreens or Walmart or anything. You cannot do anything if you're going to go. So I think the question was phrased wrong. I think what he's asking is if there's interest in the lease. I think that's what he's asking about. As for the company dealing with interest, is not our business. Is your transaction halal? You don't have to worry about what the company is doing to other people. You and the person. That's what the Sharia is looking at, right? So let us look at a number of scenarios when purchasing a car. Obviously, outright cash. Obviously, that is completely halal. You come in, you purchase a used car, $5,000, a brand new car, whatever, $15,000, $25,000. You pay your check and you get a cash check or whatever, and it is your car. Obviously, that is halal. The second scenario, leasing the car for a fixed time frame. So this is a straight up lease. Okay, which means who is the owner of the car? The company, not you. When you lease the car, you are not the owner. It is a temporary lease, and you lease it for 3 years or 5 years at a fixed rate per month. This too is clearly halal. It is like an extended rental car, and from your perspective, you are renting a car and paying a fee every month. This is the essence of rent in anything, renting a house, renting anything. This is also completely halal, the second scenario. The third scenario, which is I think what he was trying to ask, and that is you purchasing a car, but it has a fixed APR at the selling point, and you have the option to pay it off in 2 years or 3 years or 4 years or 5 years, and the longer you delay, the more you're going to pay. Okay, it's fixed APR, and it's up to you. However long you take, the more you have to pay penalty. So theoretically, I'm just giving numbers hypothetically so we understand. If you walked out of the showroom and you walked right back in and you said, here is the price, how much is it? He would say, it's 10,000. You say, here we go. And if you paid over 2 years, you might end up paying 12,000. If you paid over 5 years, you might end up paying 14,000. I'm just giving examples, right? Same car, but you walked out of the showroom. If you walk back in, 10,000. And if you do it 1 year, 12. You get the point, right? So it's a fixed APR. And the longer you delay, the more the debt and the more the payment. This is the essence of riba, and it would not be allowed by and large because there is no pressing need. I mean, generally speaking, there are so many options of buying a car that the argument of darura or necessity really does not carry water over here. When it comes to the house, we will talk about it, and I've been bombarded with questions for the last 3 months about mortgages, and it requires a detailed lecture, and I will give it inshaAllah ta'ala. That's a separate lecture. And who says it's halal, why they say it's halal, who says it's haram, why they say it's haram. We will go over all of these evidences. As for cars, the issue with cars is that the market is so vast, and the options are so many, and the prices are so varied, that it is very difficult to imagine that a person is in a dire necessity that the only option they have is fixed APR. And that is why the argument really does not carry much weight, and we say the default is that a fixed APR loan from the corporation, from the car company, is the essence of riba that is forbidden upon Muslims to engage in. That would not be allowed. Okay? Is that clear? Now we get to the controversial issue. You guys all on the same wavelength? You're paying attention? This is the big one. This is the difficult one. Bear with me. Okay. What if it is a purchase of the car, but you walk in and there's a big sign there, okay? Big sign. $10,000 for this, what car should I use? Toyota? Huh? All Toyota. The default is Toyota. You're not a proper one of us unless you drive a Toyota. I too drove a Toyota for a good portion of my life, okay? I had a Cressida once upon a time as well, like the default. They don't do that anymore, right? They have no more, huh? It's gone. That was the mother of all cars. You could last that for 20 years, okay? So, you see the Toyota for 10,000 cash, 12,000 installments. That's the big sign up there. If you want to buy it cash, 10,000. And you want to pay in installments, 12,000. This is the issue where we will now spend the next 5 minutes, then we're done for today. That's the controversy, the big controversy. And this is called in Arabic, بَيْعُ التَّقْصِيتِ إِلَى أَجَل. That deferred installment payments. And it's a higher premium and price, okay? This is the area where there's some controversy. Now, you will be pleasantly surprised, and you will be surprised, but inshallah pleasantly, to hear that the default position of all four madhabs is it is halal. This is the default and the majority position explicitly narrated from the tabi'un, and it is the standard position of all four of our legal schools. And the reason for this is because even though this exact scenario is not mentioned in the hadith, a number of similar scenarios are mentioned that are so similar, our scholars said, okay, that's exactly the same thing. And so they allowed it, and with conditions. So don't leave in the middle, or else you're going to just go and buy the car tomorrow. You have to get to the conditions. Don't purchase the car immediately. Let me finish and then celebrate tomorrow by purchasing the car. What are the conditions? Aisha said that when we freed Barira, the freeing of Barira is a very famous incident. One day maybe we'll talk about it. When we freed Barira, her family agreed with me, because Aisha was the one who proverbially wrote the check, and metaphorically she's the one who paid the money to free Barira. When we freed Barira, her owners agreed with me to get her price 9 uqiyya of silver. Uqiyya was their unit of silver. 9 uqiyya of silver. Every year I would pay 1 uqiyya. Okay? So this is an installment plan where Aisha radiallahu anha is going to pay 9 uqiyyas of silver over 9 years. 1 year for every 1 uqiyya for 9 years, okay? Now, the point being that obviously the price of Barira was less than 9. But the owners were willing to take an extended time, but they wanted more money to get Barira's price done. Okay, so maybe if Aisha had cash, which she did not have radiallahu anha, if she had cash, maybe, I'm just guessing, 6 uqiyas would have been a price. She doesn't. Aisha radiallahu anha does not have 6 uqiyas of silver. So she says, okay, I'll pay you in installments, right? And so they say, okay, fine. How much final barter price they agreed to? 9, which is higher than what they would have paid by cash, but they're willing to compromise. And Aisha radiallahu anha is compromising by paying 1 per year. So this is how we derive. The other narration as well, again Aisha reported that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam purchased some food from a Yahudi to pay at a later date, and he left his armor as a mortgage item for the food item that he had taken. Right? So this is a famous hadith, and when the Prophet passed away, the armor was still with the Yahudi. So they had to pay the debt and then get the armor back, right? Now, what does this hadith say? Again, our commentators or scholars say that at that point in time, the Prophet did not have cash. And subhanAllah, look at how he used to live, and may Allah forgive us. What can we say? May Allah forgive us, astaghfirullah. Did not have cash to pay food. So he says to this merchant, look, whenever the cash comes, you'll get it. Okay, fine, but I need a mortgage. I need some item just in case you don't bring me the cash. So the Prophet said, here, take my armor until the money comes. Now, once again, the commentators say that the only time somebody is going to hand over the product and say, khalas, pay me in 3, 4, 5 weeks. Generally speaking, and especially a person of another, faith and whatnot, generally speaking, what would they do? They're not going to say, if this price is 5, pay me 5. Say, okay, khalas, if you really want it, pay me 7 then. Then I'll give it to you after 2 weeks, okay? Now the point is there's nothing explicit, but it's understood that when these types of transactions happen, why would anybody, he's going to get cash right then and there. Why would he not take cash from another person? Everybody needs food. The only reason he's willing to not take cash, I'll get a higher price if you pay me later on, right? And the exact opposite scenario of selling for a lower price immediately is explicitly narrated and allowed in the Sunnah. The opposite scenario of pre-selling specific items for a lower price is explicitly allowed in the Sharia with some conditions. And the hadith is in Bukhari and Muslim. When the Prophet ﷺ came to Medina, he found that the people of Medina would sell the crops of the next season or two before the season came. Pause here. This is a simple scenario, but understand. You have, what's your name, brother? Hamza. Hamza has a date farm, right? And he can produce a ton of dates, mashallah, tabarakallah. Okay? And the next year he plans to produce a ton. The next year he plans 2 tons. That's 2 tons of dates. I want to make sure I get those 2 tons from him for the next 2 years. So I go to Hamza now. I say, Akhi Hamza, how much are you going to sell a ton of dates for? How much is a ton of dates? How much? 2,000, mashallah, this is free. $2,000, you get a ton of dates, mashallah. Right now, I'll buy 10 tons from you, bro. If you can sell me a ton of dates for $2,000, khalas, he's very generous. He goes, for $2,000, I can buy a ton of dates from him. I say, here's $4,000, and you're going to sell me the next 2 years of dates. Okay, now, this is an advanced topic. Generally speaking, you cannot sell something that you don't have. But some exceptions are made, in particular for farmers for future produce. Why? Because Hamza's farm is deteriorating. Hamza needs to purchase, what do you need to purchase, Hamza? A car? In installments? Hamza needs to purchase a tractor. He needs to put irrigation pipes, right? He needs to make sure that everything, he doesn't have the money for that. And farmers need the money to protect the crops. So it's a vicious catch-22. Now, I'm coming to Hamza. Do you think Hamza will be able to sell me a ton of dates at market value right now when he doesn't even have them? No. He's going to have to sell them what? Lower price, because he doesn't have them. And I am risking a little bit, and Hamza's sacrificing a little bit, and we're both reaching a compromise. Our Prophet ﷺ came to Medina and they were doing this. He said, whoever wants to do this transaction, then he must do so. فَلْيُسْلِفْ فِي كَيْلٍ مَعْلُومٍ وَوَزْنٍ مَعْلُومٍ إِلَى أَجَلٍ مَعْلُومٍ. Everything has to be specific. How long? The exact quantity, the exact price, no uncertainties. You must say $2,000 for 1 ton of dates for the next harvest season. Must be very clear. You cannot be ambiguous about this, okay? And it is well known that the price I would pay is less than the market value next year when he harvests the dates, right? So, raising the price, jacking the price up in installments is the exact opposite. This is called bay'us salam or bay'us salaf. Bay'us salam is the technical term. So based on qiyas, they said to have a extended payments installments that is at a higher value than the cash is halal, but with some conditions. And the primary condition is the following. You decide at the time of purchase whether it's going to be a cash or installments. You do not leave it uncertain, because then you have an element of riba there. The person can advertise 2 prices, no problem. But you need to decide, and the person has to agree before you walk out of the showroom, that whether it's going to be the 10,000 cash or it's going to be the 12,000 in installments. And once that is decided, then khalas, that is the price. Now, there is one big problem that happens in this part of the world, and that is the late penalty fee, which is definitely problematic. And we say, technically, this is not allowed. But, just like with credit cards, the concept is halal, this one condition is not allowed. So we do not make the contract invalid because of one of the finer prints in there, and we say, whoever is going to do a lease to own, because that's what it is, lease to own, whoever is going to do a lease to own, then they must have a fixed final price, not an APR. It must be fixed. The price is $14,000. That's it. It's not going to vary from time to time. And they must be deciding when they sign the contract right then and there. 10,000 cash, 14,000 installments, that can be advertised. You need to choose which one and sign the contract based upon either, and then it is an agreed upon between the both of you. So what this means, and with this I conclude. And by the way, there's a really good book that's in very accessible Arabic, not in English unfortunately. It is called Bay'u al-Taqsit by one of the great economic alims of our times, Dr. Rafiq al-Masri, a very famous alim of Islamic economics. He's worked for the Islamic Bank, World Bank and whatnot. He's written dozens of books, and he has one of his most best-selling books is Bay'u al-Taqsit. It's a small little booklet, and he goes over all the evidences and the aqwal of the classical ulama and the modern ulama. And this is the default position of the Majma' al-Fiqhi in Mecca. By the way, all of you should know the largest council of scholars alive today and the most respectable, it is called Al-Majma' al-Fiqhi, or the Council of Scholars of Fiqh in Mecca. It meets every year or two. It consists of scholars from around the globe, and they pass their resolutions by a simple majority vote. And it is the closest we get to mainstream fiqh of a modern nature, where famous ulama from all different mainstream Sunni schools come together and they debate contemporary issues. Okay, this is called Al-Majma' al-Fiqhi. It also follows the Rabat al-Alam Islami, the OIC, the famous OIC, Rabat al-Alam Islami. It is a part of them. So they issued a fatwa many years ago, I think 2 decades ago. One of their fatwas in the 80s, one of the first fatwas, that to have a higher price in installments is halal as long as it is in the contract what the price is and it is agreed, and technically the late fee is not allowed. So if a Muslim writes the contract and sells it to you, there should not be a late fee. If you go to one of these corporations, there is a late fee. Your niyyah must be that you will never ever delay the payment. You have to pay the payment on time, and if you do so, inshallah, it is halal. With this, let me conclude with one point, and this is no problem to do this in my humble opinion. You walk into a car store, you're interested in a car, they don't have installment plans. They say, oh, we have a APR percentage. You go to the manager, you say, look, my religion says I cannot have APR. And people should know this by now. Don't be embarrassed. Tell people we cannot have interest in our contracts. This should be known so that people start catering. Money talks. And if they know that clientele will come to them, if they have a halal contract, they will change it. I have done this myself. The last car that I purchased, I did this myself. Went into the showroom. I said, I don't want an APR. I don't want this. You go ahead, go back to your room, come back to me with a contract that has a fixed amount price at the end and put it in installments. 0 APR. I said, I'm interested in this car, but I'm not going to buy it on APR. And guess what? I mean, money talks in the end of the day. They came back, they gave me a price. I'm not going to lower it. You negotiate. You don't just take the first offer, right? The rule of one thing is, be a good Muslim. Negotiate your price down. I was going to say ethnicity. I said, no, all ethnicities should do it. It is good to do this. I said, give me a lower price. So we negotiated down, and guess what? I got my car, alhamdulillah, 0 APR. It was a fixed amount, that this is how much we're going to do. We don't care how they calculated the fixed amount. Doesn't matter to us. In the end of the day, the contract that is binding is, this is the cost of the car and it is being paid over 5 years. Alhamdulillah, okay, no problem. Here's the down payment. I'm going to pay every single month and automatic withdrawal from my bank account. And alhamdulillah, I don't have to worry about a late. Anything is automatically going to that. No problem there. And this is the fatwa of the vast majority of ulama. Frankly, I don't know of any council that actually doesn't allow higher price with installments, as long as there's no, as we said, APR and whatnot. So with that, inshallah, it is permissible to have a higher price with installments, and Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best. And
لا يزال الخير حيا لا يزال إن في الدنيا سلاما وظلال أخبر الأيام أنها في وصال قم بنا وانظر لآيات الجمال قم بنا وانظر لآيات الجمال